Welcome back to the Anthony Lee Crypto channel. Today we are taking a look at Bitcoin and we're going to try to answer the question, is the bear market low in or do we still have lower to go? I am taking a look at Bitcoin right now on the Bitstamp chart on the 1 week time frame. So we're on the weekly time frame Bitstamp chart. We're using Bitstamp because it has the most history for Bitcoin. So we can look at all markets and metrics and things like that on a full scale. So what I want to turn your attention to right now, in the bottom section of the screen, we have the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. And I've gone through, you can see here, I will mark it out for you now. We've got the 30 line down here, right? 30 line. And I've gone through and marked out, I'm fixing to turn them on. Anytime the RSI has dipped below 30, right? Anytime that has happened, let me turn those on for you right now. You can see, boom. That has indicated that the bottom is in. Anytime it has dipped below that. Now, there is one exception to this, and we will zoom in here to the 2022 bear market, where you later came back. Let me move this to the side just a hair so you can see what I'm about to show you. You can see the low was here at about $17,500 or so, right here. And later that year, we actually came back and mitigated that and came a little bit lower with the FTX scandal, okay? So FTX came, big scandal, big sell-off, big panic, a whole 9 yards, actually pushed you lower. Let me move this back to where RSI went below 30, right there at the bottom. But if not for that, I would be willing to bet, and I understand it happened, but I'd be willing to bet that this was the actual low. We can look back at 2018, excuse me, RSI hits below 30 and that was the low. Now that doesn't mean you spring straight up out of there. You still had some sideways consolidation. You even had a good little pullback in there. Let's go back and look at 2015. I'll move this to the side just a little so you can see the actual low. It's right there, directly on the RSI line going below 30. Again, you didn't just spring up and out of there. You had a nice little move up, then a retrace and some sideways consolidation for about a year or so. And you can even go all the way back to 2011. And I understand Bitcoin was brand new back then, but still, that was the actual low. RSI below 30, that was the low. So each and every single time Bitcoin RSI has dipped below 30, the low is in. Now, let's look at current price action on the move that we had down to about 60K, a little below 60K. You can see exactly what happened with the RSI. Let's go ahead and mark it out now for you. RSI dipped below 30 right there, okay? So based upon historical performance, that could mean that the low is in. Now that doesn't mean you go straight up. You can still consolidate here, even pull back a little bit and consolidate. It would just indicate that you likely would not take out the low at 60K. Now, we do have some other supporting evidence for this, and let's take a look at it right now. Let me mark out that low. What I want to do is turn on the Cipher money flow, and we've got it right here, and I have marked out, watch these green lines now, okay? Green lines appearing on your chart. This is, let me turn off the RSI for a moment. We'll come back to it. One sec, sorry. All right, so we're looking at money flow on the weekly on Cipher. Let me minimize the RSI. Now, each and every time you've entered a bear market, you come into the red, right? Okay, money flow comes down into the red. When you're in a bull market, it's in the green, then down in the red, and green, red, green. You get the point. So we won't go back to 2011 because money flow was too new then, so you don't actually have money flow. You didn't have money flow until late 2012, and it was already in the green by then, so we don't have historical data this far back at the very beginning. So let's go to our first bear market, okay? Now, what happens? You have a bear market, or excuse me, a bull market, money flow is thick in the green, you come down in the red, right? As you enter the bear market, actually you're pretty well into the bear market by the time you enter the red. As soon as you enter the green, okay, you have the low right here. Let me change that color. Let's go blue. All right, you have the low right here. While you're in the red and money flow, as soon as the weekly money flow ticks back and confirms, key is confirms in the green, the bottom is already in. The bottom has been in for quite some time, actually. You never revisited it, okay? So you move on, you go up and out, you have the bull market, you come back down, you have another bear market, right? Okay, when you come into the bear market, when you get near the bottom, your money flow enters the red on the weekly time frame, right? As soon as it ticks back to the green, as soon as it confirms back to the green, rather, the bottom has already been in, okay? It's already been in, right? Even when you rolled over later, you did roll over later and have a nice little pullback, you still never violated that bottom, okay? The bottom was in prior to money flow confirming back in the green, okay? Let's move forward to our 2022 bear market. So you had the bull market, money flow is thick in the green, you come down in the red, you're into the red near the bottom of the bear market, okay? By the time you tick back in the green, it's hard to see here, but you just barely tick back in the green, you kind of back and forth into the green and red and before you finally enter into the green. But as soon as you enter that green, even if you count the FTX scandal as the low, the bottom was already in by the time you confirmed in the green, right? So what do we have now, guys? What do you have now? You can see it clear as day. You are in the green in money flow on the weekly time frame. However, it does not confirm for 2 more days. It was in the green last week, and then on Sunday it dumped down just before close and confirmed in the red. And as soon as the weekly opened, it opened to the green. Your weekly open was at 73,834. So you would have to come significantly below that between now and Sunday in order to mitigate this and flick this back in the red. You'd have to come significantly below that, probably down to about 70K, which would be about a 10% drop between now and Sunday. Now, I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but I will say it is very, very, very unlikely to happen. So what does that mean? Let's go ahead and throw this on there. Boom. So you got a money flow into the red. Now let's throw our RSIs back on there, okay? So let's go back to the FTX scandal. So excuse me. Even if you want to say that this RSI below 30, let me pull that back up for you. RSI below 30 was a failure because we came back below it, because we took out the low with the FTX scandal. Okay, I can buy that. Technically it happened, but what are the odds of this type of scandal happening again? Sure, it could happen. Sure, anything can happen. Even if you could say this was a failure, the money flow crossover was not. So at the time you got the money flow crossover, you already had the RSI, so you had both. The low was in, whether you consider this the low or the scandal the low, either way, the low was already in. So that would indicate that by the time you get the money flow crossover, you've already gotten the RSI, then you get the money flow, the bottom is already in, okay? And it has worked that way every single time. You got the RSI first and then the money flow crossover. All right, so this would indicate the bottom. This would confirm it if you want to look at it that way, right? This would indicate the bottom. This would confirm it, right? So all 3 previous cycles, you have RSI indicating the bottom, and then it's confirmed with the money flow crossover. Now, again, each time you got the weekly money flow crossover, you still got a little pullback, right? Like even right here, you got the money flow crossover in this week, and you still pull back, a pretty good pullback. This is in 2015. You still, the following week, got a pullback of 20% on Bitcoin. A really nice pullback there. You got the money flow crossover here. At some point, I mean, this was an extended period later with the C19, but by the time you got the crossover, it was right here. So if you want to call it there, you moved up, but eventually you got a pullback of 30%. From the point of firing off that green money flow signal, which you fired off right there. I'll mark that out for you. This is when you actually got the crossover. Yeah, you had a big move up, nice move up. I mean, 100% rally, but eventually you came up, and from this point where the signal fired, you dropped another 30%, but you never violated the low. So the low was ultimately already in. Okay, and here you got the money flow crossover right there, and you wound up getting another pullback of, so you cross over there, pullback of 17%. So you got 20%, 30%, and 17%. So you could still expect a significant pullback at some point. Now, let's move this out of the way real quick. We got the money flow crossover right here. It's not confirmed. Again, I want to stress that it will not confirm until Sunday. If it confirms, let me move this out of the way so we can see that we got the bottom marked out. Bottom is marked out right here. I'll put an arrow on that for you. This is our low right there. So what would that look like if we were to get a pullback from the cross? You could come all the way down 19%, almost 19%, and still not violate the low. Okay, so you could still get a pullback in here somewhere. You got a 30%, 20%, and 17%. So let's say you got something to the tune of 15%. What would that look like? Yeah, you come right back in here. You could grab all of this liquidity right here, all the way down to this wick right here, all of this, and still move up and out of there and not violate the low. And you would still have these 100% stats of RSI and money flow crossover that would be valid. So it's a really strong case that the low is in. Now, I will present you a counter argument here, okay? Just to be fair, I'll present you a counter argument to this. And let me clean some of this up just a little bit. All right, now the counter argument to this is going to be that Bitcoin has not retraced back to the 786, okay? Every single cycle before, your bear market has retraced to the 786. And some of you are going to say, well, you know, it didn't go as high. You know, you didn't have thousands% profit gains this time to the upside. So because the gains were less than the pullbacks, the pumps were less, the dumps should be less too, right? Well, maybe, but that argument doesn't really hold up, and I'll show you why. Here's our first cycle. You moved up 52,000%, came back to the 786 below it actually, okay? The next cycle, you only went up 12.8K%, 12,800%, okay? Significantly less than 52,000, but you still came back below the 786, okay? Last cycle, you only went up 2,100, which is significantly less than even the one before that, right? Yet you still came all the way back below the 786. Okay, this cycle, you only went up 700%, much less than each prior cycle. And thus far, you have not even come back to the golden pocket, not even to the 618, much less the 786. You ran it right there. So the argument to this would be we just haven't had enough pullback, right? And this is, I mean, there's only 3 previous examples here, but it is 100% stat. So you have 3 different metrics. You have the Fibonacci retracement to the 786, you have the RSI below the 30 line, and you have the green weekly money flow crossover. All 3 of those are 100% stats, okay? Therefore, I tell you that in this particular cycle, this particular bear market, at least one of those stats will be broken. One of those will be invalidated and no longer 100%, because you can't have RSI below 30 and you can't have money flow weekly confirm in the green and still come to the 786 without violating the low at 60K, right? And you also can't hold true to the RSI stat and the money flow stat and revisit the 786. So either your RSI and your money flow crossovers are going to be invalidated, or your 786 retrace is going to be invalidated. One of the 2 or one of the 3. You either have one of the 3 or 2 of the 3 invalidated. So, and it's really too soon to tell. You just don't. There's really no way to know. Period. However, I would lean, if you had a gun to my head, and I don't pretend to choose and pick, but if you had a gun to my head, I would lean to say that if we get the money flow crossover this Sunday in the green to confirm that the low will be in. I know it's a bold statement. A lot of people will disagree, but I think a lot of people are looking for these prices. And I could just see a world where you swoop down, grab some of this liquidity, and move up and out. I mean, it may not be that simple or V-shaped like that. These can take many different shapes. Each one of these cycles has had a different look to it. So you could stay here for an extended period of time, all the way until next fall, next winter if you wanted to. But I think it could look something like this and you never take out the low. And we look back and say, wow, the low was in for Bitcoin. Now, that doesn't mean your altcoins won't still pull back. If Bitcoin does get this 15% pullback, you could easily see some alts pull back 30, 40, 50%. So, yeah, it's looking like the low might be in for Bitcoin, guys. So just prepare yourself. If you don't be married to any one theory. So if you're expecting lower because it's always retraced to the 786, and there's no way the bear market's over, I would agree with you. It has always retraced there. And I would agree with you that there's no way the bear market is over, okay? I'm not saying the bear market is over. I'm saying the low very likely is in, and you could just chop around here in a bear market for a year or so before moving up. So it doesn't mean the bear market's over and it is bull run on. It just means I would not expect new lows for Bitcoin. Guys, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, go on over, visit the Discord, join the Discord. We would love to have you. AnthonyLeeCrypto.com. I will see you next time.